Blessed love and peace. It is midnight, actually comparatively early, and given recent experience. Still watching joints though. Some things from the previous week that are still on the to view list, whatever. So I'm actually watching. It's like, or this is not the point. It is like about a vortex within a vortex. When I'm watching a react joint that has been reacted to numerous times, and I've watched a number of different reacts from different kinfolk who are all comparatively new to me, reacting to the same video, and then in watching an additional one, the react kinfolk is actually reacting to the react of the other kinfolk. Yay, it's the inception. So anyways, purpose here, because what I'm observing is some conditions of contemporality, and there's a frustration, there's an understanding, and there's a cultivation. Patience is the foundation of all blessings in this life, and we all need patience, and we all invoke patience, meaning that we all cause others to need patience in dealing with us ourselves. So recognizing that, saying that, the patience that I'm cultivating or called to cultivate at this moment is in concerns or with regards to whatever generation people call this at this moment. I guess we have to find our own name for the generation, because conventional authority they're at their wits' end. Have you not noticed this? So our generation is referred to as, we're referred to as the fifth generation of electricity. Then there's the sixth generation of electricity, and we are now experiencing the seventh generation of electricity. And in the seventh generation of electricity, there's a loss of, there's no clue, there's the loss of there's a cluelessness. And I've said this before, but I'm continuing to see this just in the generation is maturing, and like further entrenched within this cluelessness and a sense of like ownership and like authority that is clueless. And that's no fault of the generation. It's our fault, and it's extremely frustrating, because I know I do my utmost to cultivate solutions, and I've been out it's been like an absentee parent kind of thing, because I've been out in the wilderness, like finding the sacred medicine, and in doing that, I leave unattended the home front, the relations. And so meanwhile, the people in the home front have done what people can do best to like find immediate solutions, the stopgap measures, ad hoc solutions, and additionally, and in that process, being subjected to the misinformation and the misguidance and the things, not just of media, but of education, and additionally. And so, what am I talking about? I'm talking about what people are talking about, identity. There's such a selfishness. There's such a self-involvedness of individualism, and all these notions of privilege and rights and identity. It's all so selfish. It's also self-involved. The whole experience could call it class, but it's like it's the intellectualization. It's the superficial intellectualism of valuing oneself by utilizing rather multisyllabic vocabulary, and vying to have some space in the discourse accordingly, rather than actually saying something. And that's what identity is. It's all this individualism. I've said again, it's what we emphasize is relationships. When we talk about ethnicity, it's not meant about identifying as black or white, or how people are presenting or passing, or what they say. Mixed heritage was a privilege or passing privilege, or all of these things is individualism, and it's individualism. It is individualism that is caught up within the imperialism of divide and conquer, of the individualisms. And the individualisms get entrenched within that individuality, even knowing, being cognizant of the imperialism and this devaluation, and still so entrenched in the conditioning of conventional education in perceiving the solution beyond that devaluation is further intellectualization and reasoning and rationalization beyond the pretenses of the devaluation. But even that notion of rationalizations and arguing additionally is just immersion within the pretenses of the hierarchy. It's levels of pimping. And the big thing is just separation. It's isolation and ego. And the actual solution is relationship. So again, rather than talking about race, rather than talking about ethnicity, or definitely color, talk about ancestors. There's no gatekeeper says yes or no to ancestors. Your ancestors are your ancestors. What are the languages that your ancestors speak? How much of your ancestors do you know? By name, by group, by land, by generality. There's the beginning. From the beginning, of the beginning, and towards the beginning. And keep on step by step, learning further, doing further, practicing that language. Nobody has any sanction over that. Nobody has any, authority of saying, oh, no, that's blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so that's part of the solution. And when you do that, you feel that. You feel the further solution, the substance, the rootedness. Because otherwise it's just playing somebody else's game in somebody else's language, according to somebody else's rules, and maybe getting some carrots here because, to be honest, you're able to assimilate and do things in a favorable way compared to the other divide and conquer candidate. So then ones that presumes, oh, look at me, I must be smart because I've got open doors to here. And those open doors just lead to further isolation. Oh, how do I know? Ugh. Check me out. So, again, getting off the colors and things, there's actually a further point that I'm responding to at this moment. So, again, the conversation is not about politics. It's not about identity politics. It's not about intersectionality. All of that is part of the pimp game. It's all part of the imperialism. It is about relationship. The solution is relationship. Relationship to creator, relationship to creation, relationship to all relations, relationship to our ancestors, heritage, language, songs, stories, rituals, ethics, rivers, languages, calendars. That's the solution. And that's the solution that presents the further solutions, the levels of solutions. So it's, to be honest, like at this point, and I've been saying this for years, and oh, look at me, what all things are praised the Most High. But in knowing this and communicating with this, it becomes like, yo, anybody who's saying anything else, just stop. And I'm listening because these are mixed kinfolk, and I have somewhat of a further ownness of listening and responding. But there's just frustration because it's people who are very, well, intelligent, and anything. So that's one of the frustration about that. The other thing also is with the seventh generation, generation numero siete of electricity, and being clueless. And that's not shade, and it's not hyperbole. Like, you can talk to the it's not even a matter of talking to the elders, because every generation has its things. But again, what I've described before is that in our generation, generation cinco, fifth generation of electricity, born going on 50 years ago. We emerged during, we're the children of the what they call flower children. So we're like the flower grandchildren. Um, and basically, like one of the general characteristics is that we know the old school ways. We know the ways of playing outside with even no TV. We even know that. We're told, stop watching that idiot box. That's what we're told. But we know how to make our own fun. We grow up with that. We know how to, like, not even knowing stories and songs, but how to make up stories and songs on the spot. How to, like, tape up a basketball, or, well, that's not very easy to take up a basketball because that falls apart. But like, make remedies and make do with what's around. We have an understanding. Well, that's not the point. The point is that we are perceived as being rebellious, perhaps being disrespectful, but at the same time, we know where the line is drawn, and even when we cross a line, we know we have to have a strong reason, a better purpose, like a better reason for doing it, and generally do. Amidst all the corruptions and everything else like that the fifth generation of electricity proceeds in just maturing in life. Now, the sixth generation, what we observe is that the sixth generation, those born 30 years and go thereabouts, are like further gone, and instead of being rebellious, are nihilistic. Just like, see, everything's corrupt. Don't give a fuck. Whatever. What are you going to tell me? What you going to do? I know about you, and I know about you too. So don't you know better to come at me? I don't give a fuck. You can't say nothing. So a significant factor within the sixth generation of electricity and that nihilism is the LGBTQ ascendancy of just, it's not woke, it's woeful. Of no fucks, or too much fucks. Nihilism. Still know where the line is drawn, but not caring about a better purpose, a greater purpose, or anything else. Like, it's not even rebellion. It's just like indifference, and it's not a benevolent indifference. It's a callous, nihilistic indifference. Generally speaking, this is not everybody, but this is what we observe as a norm, as a further norm, a distinguishing norm of the generation, and how the discourse, and how the ideas, how the terms, how the policies of the generation, when generations are starting businesses and making rules for online engagements, a lot of it is conventionally established, but at the same time, there are nuances. A lot of the social media norms, in addition, is the sixth generation of electricity, nihilism. Now, that the policies are generally established by that culture that does still have a stake in the status quo, but it's still immersed in drawing and perpetuating a culture of nihilism. Don't care. It knows where the line is drawn, but just less concerned about it, because it knows about everybody else's corruption. So it knows it's a wild, wild west game. It's a matter about knowing how to deal with everybody else, regardless of what the rules are or what the stated rules are. And there it is. So that's the sixth generation. But now we have the seventh generation, generation numero siete of electricity, who does not know where the line is drawn, because the people who are the formal teachers are fifth generation that has been co-opted within the hierarchy of convention and spews the lies that just prepare people to be productive entities within the systemic methodologies. And then the confidence of the seventh generation is the sixth generation, the youngsters. So the 18-year-old that the 7-year-old goes to, and I'm talking about in like the I think I'm trying to think of the appropriate term to describe this, because I would generally say like in a healthy way, but it's not healthy but it's not as corrupt as it could be, but in a general way, I'll say, for lack of a better word. It's when like the 8-year-old or even the 12-year-old is starting to just wake up to see how things are going, knows like, yeah, I can't trust the teachers, can't trust parents, can't trust clergy. So it's like looking towards the 17-year-olds, looking towards the 18-year-olds who are talking about something that's to that point of honesty and about what's going on in life. But that 18-year-old sixth generation kinfolk is immersed in that nihilistic culture, and so isn't teaching where the line is drawn, because it doesn't care about the line. And so this new generation, the seventh generation, the siete, is learning the game and how to be that productive entity through conventional authority, seventh generation beyond, and some of the sixth generation. But then the confidence of like learning about life and the real deal and everything from the sixth generation. But it's a culture of nihilism significantly that doesn't care you even talk about the line. So now, as the seventh generation is maturing into teenage years, early 20s, and starting to have some life experience and starting to be able to speak from that experience, starting to speak with some authority and presumption, and additionally, but still not knowing where the line is, and thinking that it does, the generation thinking that it does know, because it presumes that what the hierarchy is teaching is that those being the lines, but like knowing not to believe that. But how do I put this? Because it's different from preceding generations. We knew what our generation and before us. We knew what the conventional authority is saying, and we knew that it was bullshit. And then we had to learn from our forebears, whether it's in Rastafari, the resistance movements of civil rights, somewhat the Black Power movement and the Red Power movement, not so much the feminist movement, to be honest, but further, like ancestors, religiosity, the nation, and additionally, we're talking about the crescent and the star. So that's where we find out where the actual lines are, or further where the lines are, and then work and trod to like live in that way. Many of us, not most of us, and not nearly, probably 10% thereabouts. So when we knew that what convention was teaching was not the honest lines, so we had to learn accordingly. The sixth generation, what we observe, and this is a generalization, that's not everybody, it's a matter of like saying increasingly, the sixth generation also knows that what convention is teaching is bullshit. Also knows what the lines are because we as the confidence of the sixth generation pass it on. But at the same time, we have, as the seventh generation, again, it's always us. We're not blaming anybody, no other kinfolk, but we're observing what things are. So as the confidence to the sixth generation, we share like, yo, these is where the lines are. Is bullshit. Tupac says, yo, Tupac's not going to be the one that overthrows the system, but it's going to spark the mind that does. So it's that we share where the lines are, but at the same time, we have yet to organize and establish that righteous alternative to the convention. And meanwhile, the sixth generation gets older and older, and it's like, yo, where y'all at? Where y'all at? What's going on? What's happening? Where's the leadership? Where's the solution? What's going on, y'all? And what happens to a dream deferred? What happens to a solution deferred? What happens to a relationship deferred? And in that space, in that abandonment, the sixth generation becomes lost. It has the knowledge that we, as the confidence from the fifth generation, share. But because the fifth generation has yet to establish convincing and connected institutional and systemic solutions, and at the same time has been withdrawn, and I'm speaking as myself individually, but as also as a collective of those who do. So many just get assimilated and just keep doing the same divide and conquer stuff. But for those who are on that path of solutions, there's been a space, and in that space, the sixth generation after us waits and waits, and increasingly gives up, because what else is there? Knowing that we know it's bullshit, the convention, the lies, the divide and conquer. Waiting on the solutions. We know like the truth keepers from the preceding generation are working on it, but we need it here today. Care for me, care for me, care for me. And so holding on and holding on and holding on and holding on, eventually letting go and just not caring at that point. Some just buy in and say whatever. Who cares about selling out? Whatever, doesn't mean it. Doesn't matter. Whatever. And then otherwise, some kinfolk just have so much goods, quote unquote, on the corruption of our own, just like whatever. I know where the rules are. I know where the lines are, but don't give a fuck. I know what I can do, and I know what kinfolk can do and can't do at me accordingly. That's the sixth generation, and the nihilism, because for many, just acquiescing and assimilating to the system is unthinkable, and doing the right thing is unrealistic. And other than that, life is unreasonable, without reason, without purpose. So whatever, do whatever. So as the confidence to the seventh generation, it's like, don't even have to tell what the lines are. Yeah, don't worry about it. What did the teacher tell you? Yeah, okay, whatever. You know that's bullshit, don't you? Okay. So what we observe is the sixth generation. I'm actually getting to something specific here. The sixth generation, some of this is being conjured as it's being articulated. This is the reasoning. This is the conversation. The sixth generation has the confidence to the siete generation. Affirms what the seventh generation already knows, because the truth is within each of us, that what is being taught is bullshit. And the sixth generation says, yeah, you don't have to listen to that. Here's the rhetoric. Here's the concepts. Here's the methodologies. Here's the academic intellectualizations where you can neutralize the authorities. But the sixth generation doesn't tell the seventh generation where the lines are, the genuine lines of righteousness and how to behave and what the solutions are. The sixth generation simply passes on to the seventh generation the tropes, the neutralizing techniques to paralyze, to neutralize, to keep at bay the eventual approach of the betrayal of the conventional authority, and saying, oh, they want you to pay back, they want you to enforce that contract you signed, huh? Well, you don't have to do that. Here's what you do accordingly. So you took the money. Oh, don't worry about that. There's an escape clause. Here's what you do. So it's not a matter of teaching the students, like, don't sign a contract to begin with. That's where the line is drawn. You don't agree with that. You don't want to do that. Don't do that. Instead of saying that, the sixth generation says, oh, you can sign it, but you can get out of it. Here's the magic formula. But so that's what we observe now. So that being said, the seventh generation has the words, has the ideas, has even the credentials, has the power of keeping conventional authority at bay. But the seventh generation does not have a clue. And that's not hate, that's not shade, that's facts. And it's very frustrating because it's so much of a shell. Like just talking the words, and the seventh generation is powered by youthful energy, sexual energy, energy that is further ignorant of the corruptions that are in the midst, that girds the comforts and luxuries of the seventh generation. Ignorance is bliss. So there's energy with that. And again, when kinfolk are young, they've got that fertility that makes it difficult for elders who aren't as spry to say, hold up, youngster, nah. Because elders, well, I won't get into all that other stuff, but youth are empowered by a lot of things that can lead youth in a number of different directions and can feel like power and authority in additionally, but it's simply energy. And when youth are provided and possess certain concepts and intellectualizations that may seem to be authoritative, and additionally yet are insufficient in providing guidance and living in a proficiently and enduringly healthy way, the solutions. So what I'm saying is that what we observe is the seventh generation has a lot of the rhetoric, has a lot of the knowledge of like history and the surface level words and concepts. And the seventh generation has increasing influence with conventional authority because conventional authority feeds off the energy of the youth. So conventional authority is waiting to offer scholarships and acceptance letters and job offers, and additionally, because conventional authority literally feeds off the energy of the youth, and prefers doing that to youth who are further agreeable. So those are some of the conditions we observe at the moment in terms of political rhetoric, and how the internet provides platforms for people who want to say whatever they want to say, accordingly. So now, all that being said, here we go into what I'm actually addressing in the two videos, and I guess this is where I can just wrap this up and bounce. God willing. They're talking about the N-word, and it's mixed people talking about who has the proclivities or the green light to use the N-word. And that whole notion is it's so has no clue. And it's basically just basing the opinions and arguments off of what has been taught from convention and from the sixth generation, who says Don't give a fuck. You can here's the rationales. So whatever you want to do, here's how you can do it. And then if you don't like what other people are doing, here's what you can say about other people. And if you do it yourself, well, then here's what you say about that. Privilege and double standards and rationalizations. And all right. So with regards to the N-word, about who can say it, who can, and what other nuances, and black and mixed heritage. Why do I keep going to this? Because it keeps coming to me. Oh, woe is me. It's all I'm always the one to blame them. So this is what I'm observing in the recent joints, the React videos, in addition, the React to the Reactors. And when mixed people are saying, well, yeah, I say it only in amongst friends, and I listen to it, but I don't say it myself. And well, if they identify and if they're presenting as this, and then that's their prerogative. And but if they're not like presenting, then like all of those rationales, all those judgments, there's just false judgment seats. Here's the truth, plain and simple, as much as we can share it. With all thanks and praise the Most High Elohim. The truth is, the N-word, I don't say it. I don't utilize it. If there's any occasion of me saying it, it's for educational purposes like this. I'm not going to say it now, though. The N-word is simply a word of hatred, whether one is saying it against another person or whether one is saying it towards oneself. It's hatred. When a black person who's thuggish, ruggish as can be, when Tupac says it, when Dave Chappelle says it, when Cat Williams says it, when anybody says it, it's self-hatred. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter how it's intended. It is self-hatred. Plain and simple. Across the board. The person has the blackest skin on the earth and says it. Self-hatred. Plain and simple. That's it. You can say whatever you want to say. There's consequences for everything in this life. Self-hatred. When people say it towards their own friends that they grow up know for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. When 90-year-old kinfolk say it. It's self-hatred. Plain and simple. And it's perpetuating self-hatred. Because in that self-hatred, there's tremendous fear. And that's not hate, that's not devaluation, that's facts. It's tremendous fear because there's been tremendous terror and atrocities, killing and raping, and little torture and terrorism that's infused with that word. And people are paralyzed and scared to death. That's what's being said when people use that word. Whoever it is, plain and simple, self-hatred. Now, some people are empowered by that word because that's part of the nature of the enslavement. There is that practice of raising certain slaves to positions of authority and being able to put others down, other slaves down. So even when friends are saying it and lovingly and additionally just being ignorant, playing the dozens or whatever, they're still powering up in a comparatively safe way and jockeying for influence amongst the crew. Yes, it's a way of showing one belongs, and well, you don't belong unless you say what we say. But then even doing that and saying it, it's like it's self-hating, and when it's directed towards others, it's devaluing. It's subjugating. By nature, that's what it is, plain and simple. So, whether one is mixed, 100% black, 100% Zulu, Maasai, Mandingo, is self-hatred. When Africans say it, and ain't never been enslaved, but just like black culture, and like the music, and want to represent, self-hatred. It doesn't matter who it is self-hatred across the board. Plain and simple. Then you can do the mathematics from that. You can do your judgments from that about who can say it, who can't say it, or whatever else. But start watching the consequences when you recognize what it when you recognize it for what it is. So that's part of the frustration, because what I'm observing is mixed sistren, and this is part of the frustration as well. When mixed sistren start speaking with this presumption of authority, of like knowing all the rules, and then sanctioning each other and giving each other check marks, and like further establishing a platform of very wobbly precepts of authority. And additionally, that's problematic, and it's all right, that's what precipitates this half-hour joint and running, half an hour. What is it? 100 miles and running. Okay, something like that. We had 35 minutes in running. Anyway, all right. So, hip hop artists saying it, self-hatred across the board. Doesn't matter whoever it is. And when kinfolk say it so much or whatever, you can just better see like what they think about themselves, what they think about the people they're around. When you recognize it for what it is, you begin to increasingly recognize like what is being manifested around people, what people are doing to themselves. So it's not abstractions of politics and rhetoric. It's further tangible than that. I will say also the solution is people learning their heritage, the language that people come from. Learning how to write Amharic. I'm studying right now. That right there helps dissolve the fear of those atrocities, of the murders and the rapes and the tortures. Knowledge of self helps to dissolve that. It's not invincibility. It's not a guarantee. It is a solution. It is medicine. It is a guide. It is God. So that's part of what we share at this moment. Is just for the 7th generation right now, and particularly as the 7th generation is maturing, getting into 20s, 20 years of age and further, and having life experience, and just recognize it, to be just honestly, you don't have a clue. You are clueless. Did you ever see that film? Another, like, oh my God, all right. Like there's a question in the video that says name 5 black films in 20 seconds. So I watched the reaction from the actual initial video, then I watched a react, and then I watched another react. And the films that they're talking about are all bullshit. The ones people said, like the go-to films that people said are like the ones to know was the series of films produced, directed, starring a man who dresses up as a woman. And that's the go-to thing for knowing black films. No clue. And then other than that, it's like garbage films that are just poison. I haven't even seen these films, but I've seen enough of them to know, because I've seen enough of the media. I told you, went to watch TV on a daily basis, and it's garbage. It's worse than garbage. It's poison. And these are the go-to films that people think of when thinking about blacks, black culture, black kinfolk. And then the one kinfolk who's of European ancestry in this series, whatever, as a way of showing his authenticity, names like blaxploitation flicks from the 70s. And that's OG. Those are classics. The one sister who's supposed to be, and love and peace to all the brethren. The sisters are intelligent, attractive, conversational, are able to articulate and show intelligence and have a willingness to have these discussions. And additionally, but again, clueless. And I'm not trying to shade. I'm trying to inform and to be emphatic and be honest about this. and it's not your fault, and it's not a matter of being less than. It's our fault, and I'm sharing. We're back. We're back. We're here to let you know. We're here to let you know where the lines are, for you, so you can be stable, so you can be comfortable, because you know in your hearts, like, you don't know where the lines are. You know that in your hearts, and in your minds, in your spirits. You know that. So we're not hating. We're not devaluing. We're not saying, oh, you need to listen to us. Not even saying that. Just saying, you don't have a clue right now. You don't have a clue. We do have knowledge. We invite you to listen. We invite you to listen, not even to talk with us at this moment. You can ask questions, because we have to be authority at this point. And we have to let you know, like, what's what in many ways. And then when we get to a point where enough of it is conveyed, we need to hear from you and the what's what that you have to share. But right now, we have things to share that you need to hear, so that you can have a better clue of where things are. So again, 5 black films in 20 seconds. And the first ones that the most kinfolk were saying was like, well, the go-to one is all the films that the drag queen does. All right. Then, like, other garbage films and poison films. And then the classic exploitational films. Now, I'll say one thing, and this is interesting. Spike Lee wasn't even mentioned. Not one Spike Lee film was mentioned. If there's anything, now that's one thing from our generation, that would be the go-to thing. But even then, there was so much sexual exploitation in Spike Lee's films, but there continues to be so much substance that the films are still relevant to reference, particularly because there's an absence of much anything else that comes close to what Spike Lee does in his early films. And that wasn't even referenced as a response. Now, yes, it's so much dated, and additionally, and again, that's our fault. But again, no clue. No clue. That's an absolute, and it's negative. We can reason about that, but we're being emphatic about this. So that's part of what we reference, or that's part of what precipitates this doing. So on the N-word again, self-hate, all the complex, nuanced rationales, and additionally, it's all pimp talk, and it's all bullshit. It's all divide and conquer, and it's all right. Now here's something to balance, and I try not to get enveloped in muck, but here's something for consideration. I don't call people devil. I don't call individuals devil. I say that I say that the devil is, God is the ruler of heaven and earth. The devil is the ruler of earth. And because those who endeavor and those who proclaim authority of earth are proclaiming a position that is, by definition, held by devil. So it's not a matter of it saying any particular peoples are devils or otherwise. It's saying that position, that behavior, that ambition, that presumption, that subjugation is devilness. So there's that. Now, that being said, what occurs to me, particularly perhaps because the word is in my mind in talking about it recently of frequency, I'm reminded how many black people refer to white people as devils. I don't do that either. Black and white is all delusion. But this is an interesting thing for consideration. About people's proclivity. First of all, just as a frame, just like as a basics of reasoning, it's beneficial to recognize calling somebody the N-word is an atrocity. It's hate. And when one self-identifies and self-proclaims one as such, it's self-hatred. When one refers to one's loved one as that, it's self-hatred. The nature of that self-hatred, though, is very earthly. It's a slave. It's a slave mentality. It's an earthly experience. It's perhaps one of the most severe and intense earthly experiences of atrocity and subjugation, but it's still an earthly experience. So the implications and the consequences are very much within the immediacy of the earthly realm. When somebody calls somebody else a devil, when somebody else refers to a peoples as devils, that's beyond the earthly. And now people have to be very careful about that, because the implications and the consequences of that are beyond this world as well. And very often when people refer to other humans, earthly beings, as devils, which is not an earthly being, when people refer to other kinfolk of this earth as devils, people are essentially bearing false witness, because people are essentially denying the Spirit of God that exists within each earthly being in this realm. The Spirit of God actually exists within all angels and demons, and even the devil's self. That's the nature of God. Yet, when people generally talk about the devil and devils, people are denying the existence of the Spirit of God within whoever the kinfolk are targeting with that terminology. And in that denial, there are serious consequences. So we have to be very careful. When I talk about devil, I am talking about behavior. And when somebody presumes a position where a certain behavior is part of that position intrinsically, that's what I'm referring to as devilness. So anybody who assumes or has an ambition towards that position, I refer to that as devilness or the devil. Now, I'm not saying any particular being is the devil. I'm saying that behavior is devilness. So that is the distinction. Now, that being said, the whole endeavor of like, I know you are, but what am I? Or when somebody gives an insult, insulting somebody back, that's all a weak art. It's self-destruction. It's a woeful self-destruction. So that being said, and with that somewhat of a disclaimer, the consideration for those who are so enveloped in this discourse about the N-word, and additionally, whatever positions people are on that conversation, one consideration is the practice of people referring to others of a certain ethnicity as devils. Whether what people's takes are on that discourse, on that rhetoric, whether it's okay, whether people perceive it as okay if somebody of one ethnicity refers to another as devils, if one ethnicity even within itself refers to each other as devils, like the Manchester United Football Club, like the New Jersey hockey team in Mohawk Land. And additionally, is that okay? Or is that self-hatred? Or is that actually confession? The Duke University mascot. So, when people have the N-word discourse, it's extremely relevant to talk about the D-word discourse and the implications of that, the nature of the self-hatred, the nature of the subjugation, the nature of the delusion, the nature of the suffering that is perpetuated. What is the rate of suicide amongst such cultures? What is the rate of substance abuse? What is the rate of rape? What is the rate of prescription drugs? What is the rate of psychological diagnoses? What is the rate of purchase of wine and tobacco? What is the rate of the purchase of firearms and the utilization of firearms? What is the rate of travel and vacation and escapism? What is the rate of purchases of motor vehicles and other forms of conspicuous consumption as escapism? Those are some of the considerations in the culture of those self-identifying as the D word. What is the rate of obesity? What is the rate of taxation? What is the right of? All right, I'm going to stop. So that's something to put things in balance and perspective. Again, that the solution is knowledge of self, knowing relationship with God, relationship with creation, relationship with all relations, creation, relationship with our ancestors, relationship with our languages, song, stories, rituals, and ethics. All right. So there's some of that. We're going to keep it at this for the moment. 1 o'clock in the morning. Where are you going to be? Giving all thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim, and blessed love and peace in Rastafari.